This week we're at the New York International Auto Show and Micromobility Expo, checking out the latest in electric vehicle and microtransport. And I'm gonna tell you why the car makers are building electric cars that is hard for me to love. Roll the intro! This is like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, and we'll be BFF forever. So I'm gonna channel the grumpy old man in me and tell you that for the most part, I think that traditional car and motorcycle companies are clueless when it comes to micro transport. Despite their effort to electrify, I see very little examples of products. Oh my god, it's so windy. My theory is that since they're ran by people who love cars, reasonable. So windy today. Okay, a little bit better now. It's hard for them to understand the pain of those of us who live in a city. Traffic is a constant and parking costs are exorbitant. But I've been told by friends and co-workers that I'm very negative and ought to keep an open mind when it comes to things. And the fact that this year's New York Auto Show actually has a micro-mobility component. Let's go take a look and see where the establishment has when it comes to their ideas of what micro-mobility should be. So my trip is actually the perfect illustration of why car is a pain in the rear end, and that my electric unicycle, which is as micro transport can get, such a great convenient option in the city. Getting to Jacob Javits Center, it's a huge pain in the rear end driving. It's located on the west side where there isn't a lot of parking, so you either have to park somewhere towards the center of Midtown and walk several avenues over, or you have to pay like $30 for parking. Look all the pedestrian area that they have put up. Versus riding an electric scooter or my electric unicycle, it's so much easier. It takes like 15 minutes from where I live downtown in the East Village, and as long as they don't give me no trouble for bringing the wheel in. All right, we are here. Jacob Javits Center, masterpiece of IMP. Let's see, hopefully they won't give me no trouble getting in with my wheel. No trouble. Only caveat is that they said no riding inside the show. There you go.
Well, they woke up.
By the way, you see this thing right here? Actually forgot the name. Never get it, it's terrible. So we're gonna go check out the electric cars first. Interested to see what the big auto company's answer is to electrification. It certainly seems to be front and center this year. I am going to assume, based on the futuristic styling, that this is electric.
All electric, 300-mile range. So pre-production actually resembles the Evolve Plus model, so our second trim level from the base.
So my issues with most of the electrification approach that the auto company has taken is that they're taking the, what I would call, it's the car you know, except electric approach. It still requires the same set of infrastructure, and I don't just mean roads. You need a garage to park it and charge your car. For someone like me who doesn't have a garage or a parking spot and has to park on the street, this approach basically doesn't work. Ooh, they love the frunk. So there's the drain, so you can use this thing as an ice chest. Very nifty. Oh look, this is the electric Transit. The same Transit you know, except electric. So I have had an unhealthy fascination with the Ford Transit. It's also, of course, a whole van life thing. You can convert it to something that you can stay in for a weekend or maybe even longer. For me, a car isn't something that I would commute in. The traffic in New York City makes that basically impossible. If I can stay in it or use it to camp out, that would be really fun. Of course, parking something like this would still be impossible. Here is the Bronco Sports compared to the Bronco. All the gadgetry, like the removable roof panel as well as door, seems like really fun. It's super expensive also, right? there is a VinFast booth. I've never heard of this. Wow, it's a new EV company. They're just popping out left and right. I'm curious to know if this is like a Chinese company. Seem to be making a much more serious attempt towards addressing the issues that, you know, a lot of the urban dwellers have. For instance, like NIO actually sells a car that has a removable battery. Instead of recharging it, you can do a battery exchange. Like the car opens up, battery slides out and all. Where is VinFast from? What country is it?
It's in Vietnam. That's where they manufacture, but they're opening up a plant in North Carolina.
Is it an American company or? Vietnamese company. Really? Wow. And that pattern of experimentation from new EV companies seems to be a running theme of the show. Either leveraging it to produce slick-looking supercar, or oh, it has a window in the trunk. Almost like a gaming PC. I was surprisingly close since Indie EV is actually planning on integrating a high-end PC into their car.
Easy to maneuver?
Sure, of course.
It took some time a little bit or no?
It took a little bit of time for me to figure it out, but
yeah, but you got it. Nice.
But it's not so bad. This is Kia. I actually like their new logo. Some of the newer companies are also much more adventurous when it comes to their design. Look at this thing. This is the most interesting concept I've seen so far. New York Auto Show doesn't get a lot of concept car for whatever reason. Here, tucking the back is their EV. Is that a plug-in hybrid or is it a...
Fully electric.
It's fully electric.
The EV6 is the first fully electric unit that we have.
It is cool. I like this. This is the most interesting example so far, even though it doesn't have the frunk. It's so like kind of super futuristic looking. But my biggest complaint is still the lack of imagination on the part of car companies. Despite the new electric models and nice packaging, the act of driving is pretty much the same compared to how it is 30 or even 40 years ago. ID4. The same problem is especially true for older car companies like Volkswagen. One new model just about blend right into another. Little screen seems a little bit anemic. Doesn't feel as snazzy. I wonder if this is supposed to be a more economic version of it. The most interesting prototype they have, the ID Buzz. So is this an actual model?
It's in production for the European market currently, and it'll come to the US in 2024.
So the thing I love about the mini bus concept, it is not a very large car, it's not very long, but it's very squarish, which means that there's a lot more usable space inside. I'm not as particularly interested in outright performance. What I really want is something that has a lot more kind of comfort options inside. Having more room is one of the best features you can have with a car. Here's the Lincoln booth. Most impressive thing about it, white carpet. It feels luxurious just to walk on this thing. Can't you imagine what it would take to keep this carpet white? Not inside here.
No, but in general.
Yes, that's why I have one.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Every car maker had an EV. Sounds so bland that it was hard to distinguish them from regular models, and for other, it was full-out weirdness. Animal making weird animal noises. That is one of the most bizarre car commercials I've. I guess that is what the ad agency figured would draw attention. Here's my favorite Italian brand, Fiat, a car that I may actually buy, and they have an electric version of it. Growing up in the mobile tech age, I want everything to get smaller and more powerful over time, but that hadn't been the direction car companies went over the past 10 years. And there are only a few, usually budget-oriented examples that seems to cater to my taste. Yeah, I love these things. They're tiny and cute. It's amazing how much the car buying decision in New York, at least for me, is driven by the ease of parking. Not just a problem for middle class people. I know people who would be considered to be well off anywhere else owns, $1 million apartment. They don't have a garage. Despite the fact that they can easily afford all of these vehicles, how are they going to charge it up? As much as I love to have access to a car sometime, rental remains my only choice. A huge miss, I think, on the part of car makers. and the fact that Tesla, the company that had done more to change the paradigm of driving than anyone else, are even here, says something about this show. So for many people, that was probably the highlight of the auto show, but for me, what I'm really interested in is their Micromobility Expo. Let's see what the establishment think micromobility really means. To start, it's relegated in the basement of the show where the other weird stops are. Man, the number of test drive range is absolutely crazy. They have even more here. I think I found the Micro EV Expo corner of the basement next to the restaurant. They have like an actual test track. Actually kind of fun for electric scooters and bicycles. There's the Y wheel.
It's good.
I don't recognize any of these companies other than Radio Flyer. But then again, I didn't actually know they make electric bicycles. Their bikes look durable and ergonomically designed, but honestly doesn't really stand out in particular as compared to the many other cargo bikes I've seen, and all of them just a bit too large for my tiny apartment. Can you tell me a little bit about the electric scooter?
We're a rental company. Do you scan the QR code that's on each vehicle to unlock it?
You probably hate it when people say this, but is it like a Bird and Lime?
Bird and Lime are our competitors here in the Bronx. It's VO, Bird, and Lime. No, I don't hate it at all.
So the problem I have with bicycle is that I simply, in my tiny apartment, have no room for it. A folding electric bike would be the perfect thing.
They are fully electric and they are fully foldable for storage, anything like that. Your battery sits in here. It's a lithium-ion battery. On a single charge, it'll get you about 40 miles in range. This bike here does about 28 miles an hour.
And this is the fastest model you have?
This right here would be our fastest model, doing about 28, 30 miles per hour. This is more like a sporty kind of...
Look at that, a tiny full suspension folding bike that fits in your backpack. The one miss I saw was the ability to roll the bike while folded, an important feature that very few folding bikes actually offer. Next we have Spark, who's building a more moped-style e-bikes with more powerful motor and customization option that is more appealing to the enthusiast market.
We're based out of Connecticut, outside the city of New Haven. We're a 7-person team, really small company. We've been selling this particular bike since 2020.
The biggest differentiator with these bikes seems to be their frame design, and theirs looks like a pretty solid combination of strength and customizability. And I get to try both of these bikes on their short test track. The Jupiter felt like a decent folder with a bit of boost from the electric motor, while the Spark surprised me with the amount of oomph it had. Both were promising, and hopefully I'll get a chance to spend a bit more time and do a review. And of all the PEV company that is here, people keep looking at my wheel and be like, what is this? They're more interested in this thing. Unfortunately, the show was a bit predictable, and despite the promises of EV, I didn't really see anything that brought new ideas to the table. And as much as I enjoyed the Micromobility Expo, it also felt like an afterthought instead of an opportunity being explored. So are you as bored as I am by what the car makers has on offer, or are you an EV evangelist and think that I'm just clueless? Well, that is what the comment section below is for, and you know what? Aha! I somehow managed to trick you into wasting another 15 minutes of your life, but I hope you enjoyed it. Shout out to my supporter on Patreon. Please check out the link in the video description below if you enjoy and like to support my work. And as always, as much as we all love electric unicycle, the only way for us to get better wheel is to grow as a community. So tell your friend, teach him how to ride, and get them hooked. Until the next video, thank you.